In this video, we're going to draw a 2D Stickman character from scratch using Photopea and prepare it for animation inside Unity. This is the first part of a 4-part series where we'll rig, animate, and turn this character into a full 2D side-scroller template. And yes, this video is a bit longer than your average tutorial. Please don't mind my shenanigans here. That's because I don't want to skip steps or magically cut to the end result. I want to show you what it's actually like to draw and prepare a character, even if that means we make some mistakes and adjust things along the way. Let's start. Today we are going to be creating this character, this Stickman character, inside Photopea, and we're going to set it up for 2D rigging. Okay, there's a lot of things to talk about, things like layers, how to use them. We'll be using free workarounds. We are not going to be using any paid tools. Typically, you need to use Photoshop and use .psd files. But in this workaround, we're going to be using completely free tools to do 2D rigging non-destructively as much as possible. Because this is a free workaround, there are going to be caveats, which we will see in this video. There are no ways around it because we don't have Photoshop and we're using things that are meant for Photoshop. Okay? If you want to create a highly detailed character, you can use this character as a skeleton and then use the proportions and stuff to draw a much more detailed character in the future. Okay? So this method is really, really good. And this is how you should start. If you do want to access this PSD file, I'll leave a link in the description below. Yeah, feel free to use it. Alright, to start, let's create a new project. Even if you're trying to create a detailed character, I recommend starting with a new project because we are going to be creating a template. I recommend choosing the Universal 2D pipeline. And then let's call this Stickman or something. Alright, once it's loaded, let's go to Window, Package Manager, and then go to Unity Registry. You need to make sure that 2D PSD Importer is installed. Because we have started from a 2D project template, it's automatically installed. Okay. This allows us to import PSD and PSB files, and we are able to retain the layer information from them, which is what we are going to use. Typically, it's best used with PSD files, which is Photoshop large file document, but it requires Photoshop, which is a paid software. So I'm going to show you the free workaround around it, in which we will use .psd files. Let's start creating our character. Firstly, we'll create a folder for the character. Let's call this 2D character and not Stickman because we are creating a template for the future. Okay, there we go. Let's right click, create another folder called art or something. In order to create a sprite, I recommend Photopea. Photopea is a website which allows you to create graphic images online, and it's completely free to use. There will be ads. I have blocked it on the side here, so I don't know if I'm allowed to show it on YouTube. But you can use any image editor software like Krita or GIMP or Paint.net. You can use any image editor as long as you're able to export the document as a .psd file. Okay? Photopea, Krita, GIMP, everything has it. Let's create a new project. I recommend choosing 2048 by 2048. 2048 by 2048 gives us much resolution, not just for game, but for creating marketing materials as well. So you can reuse the same sprite to create animations or marketing material, whatever that you want. You can always scale it down, okay? And it's not going to lose any quality. Let's name this 2D character. I'm going to set the background to transparent. There we go. Right off the bat, I'm going to unlock the background layer so that we can start fresh. Before we do anything, I'm going to go to File and then Save as PSD. And now you go back to Unity, right click, Show in Explorer, go inside the Art folder, copy this location, paste it. Let's name this 2D character. I would prefer if the space is removed because some version control systems or sometimes Unity may not recognize it. And save as type should be PSD. Okay, just hit save, and there we have it. You can see that there is nothing here. because our canvas is empty. If I simply make some changes, hit Ctrl S to save and go back to Unity, you can see the changes are updated. You can see the texture type is set to sprite. We don't want that. We want to retain the layer information. In order to retain the layer information, we click on this importer here and then choose the PSD Importer. And now we have a section called Layer Management, and you can see the background layer is here. If you open it up, you can see there are separate sprites for the background layer. And the more layers we add, the more sprites get generated. This is what we are going to take advantage of. Okay, now we need to create our character in different layers. How do we do that? What is the right way to do it? Well, there is no right way to do it. Any tutorial that teaches you this is how you want to do it, they're teaching it wrong. The most important thing is to just start and have fun with this. There are no rules. It's okay to create as many layers as you like, but you need to understand that Unity creates meshes to animate 2D sprites. It creates a mesh of the same shape as of the sprite. So if you want, let's say, the hands to be a single thing and not be detachable, you need to have the entire arm in a single layer. That is the only thing. I'll show you what I mean by that. But there are no rules to having how many layers that you want. Okay, feel free to experiment with this and have fun. But before we even start, I recommend creating a copy. Okay, save as PSD again. And this time I don't recommend using it in Unity. Instead, I recommend choosing desktop or something. And then create 2D character. Let's call this edit. And this is going to be the file in which we are going to be working on. We are not going to be working on the Unity one. We are going to be working here and then overwrite it to Unity whenever we are done. This way we are working non-destructively. We might have things like layer styles or smart objects that we may want to retain. If we were to use it in Unity, everything has to be rasterized because we are not working in a PSD file. Because this is a free workaround, this is the only caveat. I hope that makes sense. We'll look at how we can do that. Remember, we are in the edit file and not in the main file. Let's create layers for the head. Ctrl J to duplicate. Let's create one for torso. And I'll put head at the top. Create a new layer. Right arm. And then let's create a left arm. Let's create a right leg. And then one more left leg. Okay, these are like the 6 layers I think that we would need. Also, you can split the right arm or the left arm into an upper right arm and the lower right arm. That way you can have 2 parts that are detachable, and that is completely up to your choice. But if you make it into a single layer, it will create a single mesh and the entire mesh will bend, which will keep both of these parts attached. This is the way I recommend, but you don't have to stick to this. You can split it into an upper right arm and an upper left arm. Ultimately, it is the rigging that counts, okay? But creating separate layers, it's completely up to you. There are no rules to this thing. We need one more layer for the eyes. I'm going to show you how to do the eyes as well. And that's going to be above head. Now we need to reorder this thing. It's not perfectly ordered. We are going to be creating our character as if it is going to face this way towards the right. This is how a lot of side scrolling characters are made. And we are not going to be creating it in a T pose. Okay, I recommend creating it in an idle pose because the layers are going to be separated anyways, and you'll have much better control of how the character looks when you're creating it in the idle pose. Okay, let's start with the head. And for Stickman, I recommend choosing this ellipse tool. Just hold and press shift to create a perfect circle. And there we go. We created. Let's choose a color. I personally prefer it to be a bluish character. Something like this. I recommend changing the fill color to that one as well. There we go. Then we can go to this tool and then choose transform tools to resize it. There we go. I think this is fine. Now, if you want proportions, you can just duplicate it 5 times. So right now you can see that the head is too big because you need to fit 5. And there are different types of proportions available in art. I recommend choosing and sticking to one. There is like a 7.5 heads and there's 5 heads. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to reduce it a little bit just so that the stickman is a lot more humanish. Just for testing, I'm going to duplicate it 5 times by pressing Alt, and you can see that it fits perfectly inside this thing. So this is going to be the height of my character, okay? 5 times the size of the head. This is just personal preference and there is no right and wrong. It has to just look good. Next, let's create, torso. And it's going to be simple. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool and make sure there's a corner radius of, let's say, 20. Just draw around firstly. Okay, I don't like 20. I'll set it to 25. Maybe even 40. Let's try 40. 40 is good, I'd say. And I'm just going to drag this. If you're in doubt, just duplicate 2 heads and you don't need to be exact. This looks okay for me. For the arms, I recommend creating an arm of the size of the diameter of the head and then extend it a little bit. And I'm going to position it in a way so that it looks good. I'm not the best at art, by the way. And I'll duplicate it to create another layer like this. Then I'm going to select this right arm copy and I'm going to use the arrow keys to move it exactly where I want. Now I'm going to right click, merge down into a right arm. So the right arm is completely merged down into a single thing. You can separate it into 2 layers, which will give you even more control, but I'm not going to do that. Now that we have created a right arm, let's delete the left arm and then duplicate the right arm, rotate it like this a little bit and move it into place. Left arm. There we go. I'm going to rename it to left arm. Now left arm should be behind the torso. So I'm going to move the torso up. Right arm should be in front of the torso. So I'm going to move the right arm above. So the left arm is behind the torso and you can animate it however you want. Okay. And finally for the legs. Again, I recommend duplicating the same thing and then go to edit, transform, flip vertical or flip horizontal, whatever works. And I recommend going something like this. Let's call this left leg. In fact, we can delete 2 of these here and then duplicate by pressing Ctrl J. Let's call this right leg. And there we go. Now that we have everything in place, you can see this part is not looking good because it doesn't feel like a stickman. So I can go to the torso. I can go to edit, transform skew, I believe, and press Alt to create a shape like this. Now I can push the right and the left leg to however I want, and it's going to look nice. We just need to position the right arm and the right leg so that it looks like an idle pose. So I'm going to rotate it and I'm going to choose the left leg, rotate it like this, and then keep it there. There we go. Right leg needs a little bit more adjustment. There we go. I'll also rotate the right arm a little bit and then make it like this. I'll also push the head inwards a little bit so that there's a lot more space here. And finally, we need to have the eyes. And for the eyes, I recommend creating an ellipse. Fill color should be white. And then something like this. You can select the eyes. Press shift to adjust the size. Yeah, this is fine. Let's duplicate that. Move it a little bit using the arrow keys. And there we go. We have eyes. Let's right click and then merge down. So we have all of our layers that are separated into its own entities, which is nice. Now you can add more shading if you want to. For example, you can create a new layer click on this torso, and let's choose a gradient of type white to transparent, or the foreground color to transparent. I'm going to hit D so that it selects black. This is just shortcuts inside Photopea, don't worry about it. And I can do something like this and then reduce the opacity to, let's say, 10, maybe even 25. Now you can see there's a lot more shading going on. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it as well. So you can add layers like this, and then when you import it onto the final file, you just need to rasterize that layer. Okay, so this is how you add more detail to this. Also, left leg is not properly placed. I'll place it below left arm, and this is the order: eyes in the front, head afterwards, right leg and right arm. I'd choose right arm first because right arm may overlap the right leg. Then we have a layer 1 which we don't need. We have a torso, we have left arm and left leg. Cool. Now we are ready to save it. Save on the edit file. Then I'm going to save as PSD, and then go to my Unity location and then overwrite this existing character and then replace it. Okay, now if you go back, you can see nothing comes. Why is that? This is because of effects. You can see these layers are all special effects. You can see there's an icon here. They are shapes, they are vectors. We need to rasterize them, which is why it's important to have a copy so that you can make changes to these effectively. Okay, so just right click, rasterize, right click, rasterize, right click, rasterize, right click, rasterize. Rasterize the heck out of these layers and then save into the 2D character.psd. Now if you go back to Unity, you can see everything is messed up. The way I solve this is by creating a copy of the PSD file. I saved it to a desktop called 2D character copy. Hit save. Then we go to Unity, delete this thing, and then make sure that we are on Photopea. We are on the copy. We save as, go to the same location, and then let's call this 2D character. Now you can see there's a lot here. This is because we are working with a free workaround. If we directly use Photoshop, then we don't have to worry about any of this. We just need to export as a .psb file. Now if we go back to Unity, select this character. If you open it, you will see nothing. This is because of the default texture importer is the one who's importing it. We select it to the PSD importer, and it will, and it should create separate sprites automatically. Okay, now we can select this, open sprite editor. You can edit the shape and size of each sprite individually. That is completely your choice. Make sure that they're named appropriately as of the same layer names. And finally, to make sure everything is working, just go to skinning editor, and you can see the preview pose is the same as the layer pose. So I'm sorry that this is a longer video, and now we are ready to start 2D rigging this character. Okay, and we'll be doing it in the next video. That's our Stickman, fully drawn and ready for rigging. In the next video, we'll jump into Unity and start rigging it, adding bones and joints so that we can animate it. If you found this helpful, stick around for the next part. And remember, we're building a full character template step by step. So each part builds on the previous one. See you in part 2. Take care. I love you.